We're recording. Okay, we can turn that off. Yeah, we got buttons over here. What else?
He likes playing buttons. He always did like playing buttons.
Ooh. Okay. Anyways, folks, welcome back to this week's episode of
that was my button.
Episode of Farmer Talk. It's a little later than we normally record this, so instead of coffee, we've got adult beverages. But
I get the real root beer. Hank's root beer, somebody sent us. Pretty good.
yep, I think BJ was right. I think that might have been the Snert Stopper guys. I think they sent us that for Christmas.
Yeah, they
Thanks,
did.
fellas.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm pretty bad about checking the P.O. box.
Yeah.
So if you want to send fan mail, there's a P.O. box in the link of most of the YouTube videos. When I remember to put it there, I think it's 291 Londonderry, Ohio.
I bet that big dude's ice cream.
Once every 6 months, I'll go to the post office, and the lady will say, "Hey, can you take your brother's mail to him?"
You know, I don't even think I paid for it last year, and she still
You got to pay for your mail?
got to pay for a P.O. box.
Oh.
Yep. So it's finally raining a little bit.
Finally getting a little rain, but not much.
I don't know. We're supposed to have a baseball scrimmage tomorrow, and I bet
not
that's
looking good for that.
Yeah, there's a lake in the
it's
middle of the
on
infield.
top of the ground, but down underneath it ain't. You know, something I hadn't seen for a long time. I don't know if I've ever seen it. But over in the bottoms there, of course, that's all dry. Where the comes from them farms all up through that slough.
That sluice
yeah.
drive.
That slough's dry, bone dry.
It's pretty dry last year.
Well, usually it's dry in July.
yeah,
July.
Yeah, not this
This time of year, it's
Not
always
March.
got water. It is dry. Remember, if you
Duck hunting would have been bad.
Yeah.
It drains like 4 or 5 farms up the river valley there.
So one of our river farms, we are the low point for, like Dad said, 4 or 5 farms up, and they all drain through us. Normally our farm's the wetter one of those ones, and
Ditch, then it drains down to the little stream dry run they call because it's dry when there's not raining, which goes in the river.
yeah.
And
Dry
that
when
sewer,
there's not water in it.
and that sewer's collapsed. Finally rusted through.
Long dry run.
Yep, so we got to fix it. If it rains, we're going to be in trouble.
Think if we put a couple tile cores in it, or do you think it needs to be bigger?
Or do you think we just leave it collapsed and get rain?
Well, if we get
You
rain,
know we fix it. It's not going to rain.
if we knew what it's going to do, we'd maybe irrigate the field, huh?
yeah.
Yeah,
Rice.
Yeah. Now we
Hey,
probably better
you're
fix
standing on my cord. Thanks.
Yeah, well,
Appreciate
that's so you can't move.
Yeah.
Yep. So what is this week's episode from Flashback Friday, or what do you want to call it?
Well, I just found some in 27, the Farm Journal 27 I got. It's talking about house kits, kind of popular thing.
House kits?
House kits, buy a house or kit.
Well, that's what you did when you
Well,
built
like
your
my
house.
house, like mine was log, but a 2-story home was $2,100, and that's just the shell, from what I can understand.
Yeah, it's
That's
probably it's not put up.
windows and all that.
Can you get me that advertisement? I need to make a phone call.
Yeah, it's in there.
Probably would have.
It'd
Four
be
room,
interesting if the phone number.
a 4-room single story was like $352. A 7-room house was $1,168. It said. Then you could get a poultry house. That's what you was looking at. Well, I guess you was looking at a barn one. Yeah, okay. It was a 30 by 36 for $900. A barn, a nice barn. Then the chicken house was a 12 by 20, and they said $133.
So you could buy a single-story house kit for what a lot of households spend on a week's groceries.
Yeah,
Wow, that's pretty.
you just had to finish it out.
Yeah, but I mean,
Back then was, I suppose, proportional. You know, my house, when I got it was a log house I built in, 87.
that's when you
And
started it.
It
yep.
was a kit, and it just had, but it had the
You'll finish one of
windows.
these days.
It had everything in it, windows, no drywall, which is very little drywall downstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all the little things, the fixtures, the hinges, and all that, and electrical
Right,
stuff. It was
lights.
so much. That kit was $45,000. And I remember a neighbor girl getting married, wanted to check on building one, and she got that price. 4 or 5 years later, and it tripled.
Wow.
So
in just a few years.
funny you should say that, because for those of you that don't watch the farming channel, we just built, my wife and I, a small pole barn. And one of the things I was considering doing, which I think would still be really fun, would be buy a kit barn. And not a pole barn kit, I mean a timber frame kit barn, like a wood,
the old style
yeah,
pin.
wooden pin, dowel pins
Dowel
and
pin,
everything.
yeah.
Like, I think that'd be really fun. But you can buy one of those kits, like a whole house kit, like a 3,500 square foot kit, and I assume it'd be similar to what you're talking about for about 140. I mean, it's a barn frame, but it's set up as a house. So, but like you said, I mean, it's 140 grand, but you're probably gonna have another 140, 150 grand in finishing it at least.
It's all the little things in it that cost so much.
Well,
money.
electric,
God, electric,
sewer.
Yeah, it's just crazy what the fixtures and things, little outlets and hinges and doors and all.
Well, even my house that we just built last year, I mean, I hired a guy to build it, but me and Dad did the excavating, and we ran the utilities to the house. How much do you think that saved? I mean, how much do you think it would have cost to hire someone to run a water line a mile?
Oh, probably. You probably had $20,000 in it.
What about the electric?
Probably had more than that in that.
Yeah. So it is.
So
If you're building a house, I guess don't see that first price and get all excited because there's a lot more to it. You know.
then I found an ad for paint, sunproof paint. Pittsburgh plate glass made it. Then there was another one, Gordon paint was $2.55 a gallon.
Sunproof paint.
I wonder if that company's still in business.
Well, Pittsburgh plate glass. I didn't know they made paint, but yeah.
Well, they probably still make glass, but probably not paint.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Them books, they're not like the Farm Journal today showcase a lot of different ways we farm that. It's got advertisement for everything.
It's almost like a little hardware store.
Yeah, so it just tells there's a section. It's neat to go through, and I'll go through some more of it. And
You think that's because back in the 20s, people didn't make it to a hardware store near as often, so there's a lot of mail order
probably
catalogs?
Yeah, a lot of mail catalogs. You can get about anything. I know it said, I was reading one article, it said get 4 crops in 1 year. Man, I read on, and it was in South Carolina, I believe it was. They was wanting people to come to South Carolina, and in the weather down there, you could grow 4 crops in 1 year, they said.
Man, there's a lot of people harvesting corn ahead of a hurricane every year now because their grandparents fell for that.
I guess.
They probably grew tobacco. That all went out the window, and now they're racing hurricanes.
I mean, what was the 4 crops? Peanuts, tobacco, beans, and corn?
Cotton was in there probably.
I would imagine. Yep, I would imagine. It's pretty interesting, some of the stuff you see in that successful farming. But like we were saying, though, I can remember whenever Cabela's outdoor shops were everywhere, and I can remember going over to Uncle Barry's, and they would have the Cabela's catalog every year. And that was people were shopping online, but it wasn't as common. And it was pretty cool to go through that catalog and see all the things that existed that you didn't know about. So I'd only imagine in the 20s, the 1920s, it was it's more so.
But it's interesting. There's so many things in there that exist today, name brands that exist today.
Well, they must have done well. It's probably because they advertised in successful farming.
Probably so. Farm Journal. This was out of the Farm Journal here.
I also find it interesting that I haven't read a new farm journal in a long time, and I'm betting you haven't either. But the one from 1926 is still pretty interesting.
It's completely different. But
I wonder if they had to pay to be in the magazines then.
That's an interesting thought.
I don't know. That's a call.
I mean, they probably
they might know.
They probably did.
I would imagine.
I would imagine most magazines make more money on advertising than they do subscription.
Yeah, but I mean, most of the articles that you're seeing in Successful Farming, not just that magazine, but all those magazines, I'm pretty sure if they're writing an article about a product, pretty sure that company paid for them to do that.
It showed.
I think that's something that people don't I didn't realize that.
Live under a rock?
I understood the advertisements were paid for, but the articles themselves, no, I didn't realize they were paid.
It had a page in there that said this year's movies, new movies. I thought that was interesting.
What were the new movies in 27?
Oh, yeah, I didn't recognize it. Yeah, I'd never heard Peoples in them, but there was
Pre-John Wayne.
probably 24 pages or 24.
I wonder if those were the talkies or still the silenties.
So, I don't know. Silent movies, yeah.
1895.
So, Dad, what was it like when they got sound in movies?
Well, I don't know. God. You remember when we used to go to that restaurant up Columbus? Charlie.
What was it? Was it a steakhouse?
It was a steakhouse.
Play like Charlie Chaplin and stuff?
Angus Steakhouse, something like that.
Yeah, before you.
Yeah,
Charlie Chaplin, silent movies.
Like you said on a little
screen.
There was a screen.
Black Angus.
The closest thing I remember to that was Damon's, where you had the radio, they had 4 big screens, and you could select which screen.
I didn't. don't remember that. I mean, I remember Damon's, but I forgot about it.
No, not the Chillicothe didn't have that.
The
The one
over
in
at,
Wilmington did.
Wilmington did. All the college kids go over. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, Trey went to college at Wilmington, and they shut Damon's down while he was there.
So Damon's was a regional
One of the
steakhouse.
last ones left. Boy, they had good steaks.
Yep. Were they as good as the Ruth Crisp?
No.
Yeah, didn't figure. What about the one this year? The steakhouse we went to in Louisville.
No,
You guys were supposed
it
to
was
eat
good.
salad
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
week since I didn't go.
Yeah.
Well,
You weren't supposed to eat steak without
Not our fault you were sick.
No, I thought the one that we went to Louisville was better than Ruth's Crisp,
Okay.
or whatever it is.
So Dad and
It
BJ
was-
had never been to a high-end steakhouse till last Farm Progress show. Our friends from Mendeco
How
took us
dare
out
you
to
talk
eat.
about Texas Roadhouse like that.
Our friends from Mendeco took us to a Ruth Crisp. I think that's the name of that steak chain.
Ruth, Chris.
Not Crisp.
No.
Whatever.
I look at it as Babe Ruth Steakhouse. But anyways, if you've never been to a higher end steakhouse, I'm sure there's ones that are much higher end than that. It is definitely a step up from Texas Roadhouse, wouldn't you say? Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And a price up too.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely not cheap. I know I used to think that was absolutely ridiculous, and I took my wife to one for our anniversary, and we go every year now. So, but anyways, on today's episode, this week's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about it's actually an article my brother found, and it kind of brought up a topic that I think is kind of interesting: equipment fraud, fraudulent sales of equipment stealing. There's been some local cases of that here long time ago, and
I'm sure in most
yeah,
areas there's been cases.
but I kind of thought it would be one of them things where it was a lot more common pre-internet,
Could be.
pre-social media, pre-internet.
Maybe you never heard about it. Just never heard.
So let's talk about the article. Let's not name names because I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's an ongoing court. We actually read it in Successful Farming, so
Yeah. So I mean,
I guess we have read one recently.
we were at dinner with some friends of ours, and he was telling me about it. I just thought, oh yeah, that's crazy. You hear about it sometimes, and then just mindlessly scrolling through Facebook one day.
They heard you talking about it. So
Yeah,
they suggested it.
exactly. Yeah, so it popped up in my news feed. I clicked on the link, and yeah, it's just it's like a guy had just kind of run this long con on a lot of folks where he was taking out liens on equipment that wasn't necessarily his and not in his name, but he had a partnership, and the partner would know nothing about it, and then he would sell said piece of equipment and not pay off the lien.
It'd basically be like me taking our tractor sitting out there, selling it for cash, and not telling you guys about it, right?
Yeah, and then you go on vacation, and AGCO Finance called us saying, "Hey guys,
Yeah. Yeah, and it sounds like in that particular case, that guy had done that to a lot of. It sounded like that particular case, the guy worked at a dealership and
So
was
he had-
also a farmer,
sounds like he had access to a large customer base,
and he was
a lot
able to
of used
market equipment.
had connections to move stuff and find stuff, and at one point it looked like he was preying on the Amish community because he didn't think that there would be any legal repercussions, because I think the one Amishman was quoted as saying he kind of thought that the guy thought since they were supposed to turn the other cheek, that's how they're taught, he wouldn't get in any trouble.
He's apparently
could-
not watched
could
the
be-
Amish Mafia.
Yeah.
Well, it couldn't have been much of the Amish. They don't have big equipment. Like
Well,
balers.
they buy balers.
Balers, something like
and
that.
one was $90,000. Paid
Yeah.
cash for a baler, and was never delivered. And yeah,
Ooh,
stuff like that. I mean,
that'd make you mad.
yeah, I could see some repercussions regardless of religious belief.
Well, the one story that was in that article, a guy was in business with him and didn't realize he was a crook until they got a letter from a financial company wanting paid, and that'd be a very shocking letter to open up, thinking everything's on the up and up. You're running a good business, doing your due diligence, and all of a sudden you find out you're a couple $1 million in debt you didn't know you had.
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of what was going on is he was one of those guys that was really friendly and cordial, and everybody liked him. And he was, hey, let me borrow your tractor.
And they're selling it.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then
Jesus
selling
God.
it. And I don't know.
I'm surprised he's still alive.
Yeah.
God.
Let me borrow your combine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Brian, let me borrow your house for a few days.
Well, with equipment, it'd be a lot easier to do it because there's no title.
Yeah, and I saw at the end of that article they were saying do like a UCC search on your VIN numbers if you're buying used equipment. And it's like, what the? That's just going to show you if there's ever been a lien. I don't know how much information you can get that way.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty easy to do that with because, like I said, there's no title. I mean, if you're paying cash, like the guy that came and bought our bean head there last fall. I mean, that was
He was taking it on good faith that we owned that.
and it was a lower. I mean, it wasn't a high ticket item. It was a lower cost item that was a little easier to cash flow maybe for some people. So it wasn't like there was a bank involved doing a VIN check on it. Yeah, for all he knew, we had a $20,000 loan on that.
I guess in situations like that, it comes back to if you're getting a deal that's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
Yeah.
And I think some of the equipment he was selling was low hours, and I'm sure he had some. I've heard a lot of guys come up with a story like, "Oh, I'm going through a divorce." You know, that's pretty common. Going through a divorce, or the farm separating due to death in family, and we got a low hours. I can see how that happens, but
I've heard the one common thing that's said when a piece of equipment's a problem for any reason, it just doesn't fit our operations needs.
Yeah, we've just changed directions, and hell, I think we've used that line a few times, but I mean, not in ill will or anything like that. But.
Years ago, 25 years ago, around here, there was guys got in trouble for heavy construction equipment mostly. And it was.
So what was the story on that? I've always heard bits and pieces.
Don't name names.
Yeah, let's leave names out of it. But I've always heard bits and pieces. I've heard, hey, you don't want to buy that piece of ground because there's a bulldozer buried there, kind of stories.
Well, back years ago, when they had like the tractorcade. When would that have been? In the 80s? I don't know if anybody remembers that, the older fellas. When they went to Washington and drove tractors.
Mid-70s?
Yeah, well, when Interest got high.
I think it was before I was born.
Interest got high and stuff.
So this was just a protest because of the farming recession?
Yeah, and they called it Tractorcade, and they had one in town, and they drove to Washington, D.C. But I can remember there was a guy up, I don't know, above Circleville up there, supposedly, that buried a couple tractors, big tractors, dug a hole, buried them, still there. So I don't know. I've never seen it, but I don't know. You hear everything. But this heavy equipment was around here. There was several guys around here. And
was it insurance jobs, or what were they doing?
They was just going out and stealing them.
Oh, they were just going to a dealer lot?
They would go out and steal them, yeah.
Were they selling them then? Or?
Yeah.
So, I mean, for a lot of farm equipment, a key is kind of like a lawnmower key.
I think some of that's starting to change, but yeah.
One lawnmower key fits all, most lawnmowers. Yeah. So.
But now the fence ain't like it.
No, you're right. It's just like
changing.
Just like a car key has an electronic chip in it, or it's a fob.
Well, that's always the joke at all the farm shows. Is I've heard it be said around a few beers on after show hours, like, "What key do you have in your pocket?" They'd shit if they came here and we moved all their equipment.
I think I know.
If we moved around all their equipment in their booth, they'd really be mad.
Yeah, I always carry Cat and John Deere and what else?
Klaus,
yeah.
So oddly enough,
didn't you move our tractor at a show?
No, I thought about it. I didn't have a key, but I did piss in the tire. Well, it was our tractor. I was at an after-hours event at the show. I had
to late day sodas.
I had to take a leak, and the bathroom was pretty far. I was like, "Shit, those are our tires. I'm gonna go over and pee on them."
That's why everybody was going to pee on that tire. Dogs and cats.
Probably. I didn't feel a bit bad about it.
But I always heard them in a lot of magazines you had in there. Now the GPS stuff, taking the satellite receiver off of tractors out west places. It's hard to believe, but you get out there where there's no, houses around. I guess it's kind of. I even heard, stealing cattle, even stuff.
I think cattle theft's been kind of a thing for a few hundred years.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched enough John Wayne movies to know that's a real thing.
Well, to live where we live and to think of cattle wrestling is still.
Well, we can do. Wild, we can do one better than that. Most have never heard of. How about a walnut log thief?
Yeah.
We have a walnut log wrestler.
So this has nothing to do with equipment, but in our area, there's a guy who's well known. He doesn't even make fucking bones about it. He's got a apparatus that he pulls behind his truck.
I passed him on the damn road the other day.
Yeah, he's back.
Oh, he's still.
Yeah, with his little hoist on his trailer. I passed him.
Oh my God!
He
basically
has he probably is taking them trees you cut down.
Yeah, might be.
Well, I'm gonna get him out of the field for us.
Yeah. Well, he's basically got a boat trailer that he's built a hoist on, and what he'll do is he'll drive around. He'll find a walnut log, which if you don't live in a hardwoods area, walnut logs are always. It's the one tree that just doesn't seem to really fluctuate in value near as much as the rest. There's always a high demand for walnut in our area.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least around here.
There's always a decent amount of walnut trees in the area. And what he will do is he'll drive around. If he sees a decent walnut tree along the side of the road, he'll come back at night, cut it down, top it, and then haul it off and sell it. I don't know why the sawmills at this
Yeah,
point
I don't know why they
aren't
don't
held
either.
responsible, because he has a known reputation for being a thief. He never got put in prison, oddly enough, even though he was caught on trail camera. He's been caught by people in person. The only time
he's ever gotten is like overnight in county.
he went to jail
Well, I think
because
he went to jail for a while when he off the state.
got caught stealing off the state.
They didn't do anything. Local people,
Well,
but
yeah,
the
they
state.
say, they
well,
say you
they-
can't prove anything. Well, I mean, trees have fingerprints, right? And the rings are not.
I think they have DNA. I mean, I would think you'd be able to prove it, but
They don't want to get that kind of trouble.
yeah, I'm surprised that he's still amongst the living as well.
I didn't know he was. I thought he was going out.
Well, we know a guy that caught him on trail cam, plain as day.
Yep. Yeah, so I bet that's a new one for the listeners. Probably not heard of too
Probably
many
not,
log
'cause
thieves.
There's all kinds of thieves, but we've been lucky. Knock on wood. That's plastic. Anyway, we've been lucky that.
I'd say the floor, but it's fake.
But when this place changed hands before you got it, after Meade sold it to Mark,
Who oddly enough might have been in one of the.
he had there was electric. There was guys come in, thieves come in and stripped all the buildings, all the electric that was around wiring and stuff. I remember even Neil's sprayer. They took his sprayer and run into a tree.
Took it for a little joyride.
There was a little spray coop sitting out there, and they took it for a joyride, run into a tree.
Yeah. Have you ever had any pieces of equipment come up stolen?
Knock on wood, no. The only thing we had stolen was toolboxes twice. And the worst part, I was pissed. The first one on the other side of town, farming after so many years, well, I can't get a wrench into this. Well, you make a wrench bend it a certain way, and I had a spatial wrench in there for something.
Oh.
But that was one down in Caldwell when they stole it down there, I think. But up there, I had Dad had picked up some parts up at Al Schumer's place. We had gleaners. And, $20, $30, $50, $60 parts, something. So either something. But anyway, it's been toolbox. The son of a buck stole the toolbox.
The receipt.
Stole the toolbox that night, come out. I was going to fill it up. It was raining. I thought, on the other side of town, parked beside a house. I thought, I'll go out and fill it up, fuel it up, check it. Got sitting there looking. I was looking. Something looked different. My toolbox is gone. Come find out, we went up there a few days later to the dealer, and they said, I said, your guy that works for you brought him tools back, or him parts back. And I paid, what? Well, they got some guy, whoever said he's working for us, took him up to the dealer, and he gave him money for it, a check in my name, or one of our names. And anyway, he said, so went to the bank right up the street there, and the guy come in there and cashed the check. They gave him money, no problem. I said, don't you check? He said, anything under $100, they don't ask ID or anything.
This is mid-'80s. I mean, hell, you can get away with a lot then.
Yeah, it was early 80s. Oh, the son of a buck. But that's about, as far as equipment, big stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you never know anymore. But I haven't heard anything around. And
So there was a story circulating, and again, we're not going to name names, 'cause I don't know whatever happened with this, but there was a story of a salesman at a local dealership who was doing some kind of shady shit, basically like you were, kind of similar to what you were talking.
We'll continue this conversation off air.
Well, I'm not going to get too deep into who it is.
I know more than you do, I think.
yeah, we know where he's at.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think I might know where he is now, too.
Yeah.
Now that you think about it.
Yeah.
But the story we had heard, just another example of some of the shady shit that can happen in sales. The story we had heard was they were using multi-unit deals, taking those extra vehicles or machines and selling them. Wasn't that the gist of it?
Basically, they were getting a big discount, rebuying them, and
The guys wasn't even
cracking them back
ordering the machine.
Yeah, they were forging purchase orders. Yeah, that's right.
Something like it. But you hear everything, but something. But
So I guess you really got to watch your P's and Q's and
that's
dot
just
your
one other
I's.
thing you got to think about in the wintertime when you're sitting there on Tractor House or Red Iron or whatever, just scrolling through.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but that's why when we get an established person that we do business with in sales,
Yeah.
I like, as long as they're not taking advantage of us, I like, which you don't know you're being taken advantage of till after the fact usually, but
Hey, the good salesman, you never know.
yeah. Well, like our salesman from Ohio Ag, he's no longer a salesman of ours because he's moved to a different company, but I mean, I thought the world of him. I had a great relationship with him, and I trusted him. That's something that takes
Well, something
time.
you never think about. You know, they wouldn't do that. And,
But you think about it, they have all your personal information.
oh, they could.
A
Well,
lot of
that's the way anybody.
A lot of times you're
The more you
sending
deal
them
with.
checks or money to put on accounts and stuff. I mean,
That's just
Yeah.
the more you take, you know.
get the wrong crooked guy there, you could get
Not
kind
too
of
many.
costly.
Most 99.9% of people are, we deal with are honest.
I would say, yeah.
So you never know. There's always one someplace ruins for everything. But
Yep. So back on the topic of shady shit, you always say that anytime farming's good, there's always more snake oil salesmen that come out of the woodwork.
When farming's good, try this, try that. And,
Do you get the impression any of them are shady?
oh, could be. I don't know. I knew of one guy years ago. He was selling everything. First one company ended up jumping around. I'd heard some things about him, but that's back in the 70s.
And that's probably at every small farming community, though.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, when things are good, you'll see a lot of people. When things are bad, you don't see so many.
Yeah. I can remember one time, I think it was when corn for the first time got to close to $8. This would have been almost 20 years ago now. A local guy down the road, I don't think he was doing anything shady. I think some dude stopped in, convinced him to sell a product, and he didn't know anything about it. But he was our heating and cooling guy. Next thing I know, the heating and cooling guy's selling us a product to put in our talc mix for corn. And then fast forward that spring, and Dad's cussing him up and down one side and the other.
Oh, I tried a little bit, and we went back. It's supposed to help root development.
It instantly plugged up your central fill.
Yeah, I did that. But
That's what I remember you cussing about.
Yeah, I forgot about that. It did.
Yeah. So it seems like that's probably the only time I've really seen someone that had no experience with ag and times were good, thought they could make some money, and jumped right in. But got a great relationship with that guy. He's still our heating and cooling guy. He's good at that.
Yep.
Yep.
Is that? I mean, I'm just like, is that stay in your lane? Is that what that?
Yeah. One place I see stuff all the time that I kind of question is this stolen? Is tool sales?
Yeah, we got the little random guy that shows up in the old Dodge Dakota that's split in half.
I mean, the one guy showed up and his bed was ratchet strapped together, and he's trying to sell us tools out of the back of this thing. I'm like, there's no way a company lets you drive this truck.
So, like 3 or 4 years ago, this is a couple years ago. It's right before we started building the shop. It was the summer before we built the shop.
Yeah, you got some of his tools.
Fair week. I'm back here. I was doing
The
something.
hoop building.
We were all in the hoop barn.
No, you guys were going.
Okay.
He rolls in, and I'm in the hoop building, like getting ready to go to the fair. And I'd just been to the bank. I had like cash to give the kids, so they could run around the Midway. And this guy rolls in. I'm like, God, I knew who he was. I never remember this guy. Talks. I'm like, but there's nothing I'm interested in. And finally, just to shut him up, I'm trying to think of something cheap. I was like, you know what? If you got a Torx driver set, I'd probably buy it off of you if it's the right price. Well, he ends up I ended up buying 3 or 4 kits of shit off of him.
Suckered him in, didn't he?
Fucking snap ring pliers. The only thing those things do is snap.
Suckered him in.
Shit. And I was like, I feel like I did all right. After the fair, I'm sitting down at the shop on my phone, just looking through. I'm like Googling stuff. I'm like, damn it! I could have went to Harbor Freight and got all this shit for $50 less.
Well,
And it was the same stuff.
He probably bought it at Harbor Freight and then sold it to you.
Well, that guy
Probably
come
stole it
over.
from a dumpster at Harbor Freight.
He had a multiplier. Remember that?
Yes.
I'd never seen one. I've heard of
We've
them.
used
A
that.
torque multiplier.
And buddy, I think I got down to $50 or something. It was dirt cheap, and I bought it. And we've used that thing on the
We used
on
it
the
on the
Doge.
D8. Yeah.
So
the
this is the
D8?
same guy.
Yeah.
Same guy. And he laid all that shit out that I bought, and he's like, I got to 4 bills, I'll get it for you. I was like, buddy, I can't give a hair over $250, and I ended up paying like $325 for it.
We used to get good boat guys, or one guy coming would keep our boat bins full with everything.
Yeah.
And he had a few tools, and he died on us. Okay. Got another guy. He died on us.
What was the Big Daddy Tools guy?
He never come back much, even once or twice.
That was the name of his business.
Yeah.
Daddy too.
Yep. But oddly enough, we got his number from some of the mechanics we still work
Yeah.
with.
Okay.
But he was, I think, okay. But, yeah, some of them guys. I know the painters used to come around. Some of them
They didn't
had
seem shady
some
either.
bad. There was a couple of them, but we got associated with one that
Do
still
not
comes.
call them.
Right, that's still coming, and I didn't see him last year, I don't think. But anyway.
He was around.
Well,
The boy stopped.
Okay.
So the painters you're talking about, there's a father and son duo.
and they're in every place.
Cottrell?
Carol.
Carol.
Yeah.
So there's a father-son duo from South Carolina or
And we were
Georgia.
use names, but we didn't.
Yeah, I don't care. They're good. They're okay. I get a kick out of it because you can tell they're salesmen. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like they're used car salesmen for sure. They probably do that in the winter.
They might
No,
steal
they-
you blind, but they wouldn't steal us.
No, the blacktop guys, remember?
Okay. Well,
Down
the
there.
one year, this was before the shop. I think we just put that bin up. They painted the one bin
They painted that bin.
in this block barn. And the boy pulled in, and I said, "How's business been, buddy?" He goes, "Oh, it's been great. We've been busy. We've been getting so much work. It's just been great. Well, I'll tell you, it's just hard to get help, but, man, we've been real good." And they talk like they've got a mouthful of shit in their mouth. I mean, you've heard them talk.
With that southern accent. But,
I mean, way worse than anybody else I know.
Oh, wow.
that boy was, yeah. But
And the dad pulls in, and I said, "Man, is his name Pete?" Yeah, I can't.
no, that was the old man, Tom.
Okay. Well, he pulls in. I said, "Tom, how's business been, man?" He goes, "Oh, man, we're starving. We can't hardly get." And this was within 5 minutes. Like one left, the other one pulled in.
Well,
But there are
you know-
several
you
years
know
ago.
Dad was the one writing the bill.
Yeah.
But several years ago, there was some bad ones that come up here and give him
Well,
bad taste.
I mean-
he's paying.
I thought it was the same. I thought this was the same crew from when I was a kid.
Well, his uncle or something was the first guy, the old guy.
Because I remember when I was a kid, they'd
And
come
they've
paint
always,
the barn.
oh God, I remember they painted the big old barn down there.
Yeah.
Dad had to paint it, and they was leaving the trucks and everything. They need the money, like $1,800 to pay for the paint. So Dad paid them, but they left their trucks there, all their equipment. So they come back and painted her. And they left all the buckets, and hell, half the paint was in the buckets.
Oh, yeah, the
They
damn tin
destroyed-
buckets, and silver paint all over
But
the
you know, that,
place.
that paint held on there. They've always done us a good job.
Plus,
really.
you'll get a free two-tone on your pickup. Or
Yeah, you
free,
can.
free glitter finish.
Yeah, I had one on my
You gotta watch
trucks.
which way the paint's
Yeah.
or the air's moving.
Yeah,
The thing I
silver.
didn't like, I mean, like this grain bin, for example, they painted it, and when they paint it for a little while, they look brand new.
Yeah, too much
But-
asphalt in it.
Yeah, it had too much. I mean,
Asphalt.
it turned black basically.
Asphalt. They've always done us a good job.
Well, and they never. I don't know. There's.
He wanted to paint my house, stain it last year or what year before. I wish I'd let him done it now.
Oh,
Tried
he'd,
it.
He'd have stained your house. Your
Well, that's what I
windows, your
told
chimney.
him. I said, no, we'll cover it up and we'll do all this. And if he comes back this year, I might.
The
He's
dogs
listening.
would have been stained.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
There'd been an
but
outline
they've
around
always- but
where
you
they
hear
were
them
staying.
stories. Some of them don't do a very good job, but
The tire guys that come around. Ever since we've put this building here,
We get some rando tire people.
we're around a lot more traffic now than we used to be. We're a lot more centrally located and busy road. And I've had at least 2 or 3 random tire salesmen that I've pulled in that I've never heard of before.
The one guy put me in mind of that video I was telling you about it the other day. Little China man that was putting a semi tire on. He just throws it down on the rim.
Yeah.
And his buddy comes over. He's going to do the same thing. He slams that rim down, that tire down, and it bounces back and takes out every tooth in his mouth.
Yeah. Yep. But well, I think that'll pretty well cover this week's episode. So, if you guys got any random stories of crooked salesmen or theft in agricultural equipment, leave them in the YouTube comments or share them some other way. I think it's one of them things people don't think about, but could easily happen to most of us in this
I
line.
bet there's a lot of folks that know that they've either been taken advantage of or know somebody.
Like I said, I've heard of
It's
a lot.
probably way more common than we want to
I've heard a lot of stories that I can't verify, which I hate to
Sure,
like put on.
yeah.
Like I've heard some stories about some pretty big
Yes.
names that I don't want to put on there, and I'd be curious to know if how true they are, because I mean it's very similar to that story you shared from Successful Farming. Yeah. So, and that person has a good reputation, so it'd be interesting to know if it's true. Yeah, but well, folks, thanks for tuning in. Again, this podcast will be available on all podcast platforms as well as on YouTube under the Farmer Talk YouTube channel. So check that out if you so are inclined, and we'll see you next Sunday.